This week we're going to take a look at the results of the USDA monthly supply demand report. We're also going to take a look at a critical time period for weather here for those Argentina soybeans. And we're also going to take an updated look at the U.S. soybean export picture. Hi, this is Brian Basting with Advanced Trading. Let's talk about the soybean market. We're moving closer to mid-February here and there's a lot going on, so let's get right to it. Let's take a look at the results of this week's USDA monthly supply demand report. Not a lot of numbers here, but let's zero in and highlight number one, the soybean carryout in the U.S. 120 million bushels. You can see the trade was expecting 119. So again, no real surprise there. Moving on now to South American crop projections, there was no change in either Brazil or Argentina compared to the month of January. And there was no change in Chinese soybean import forecast at a record 100 million tons. So no major surprises as such in the supply demand report for soybeans. Let's move on now and focus on Argentina soybean production. Now we've looked at this before again, but it bears repeating that as we get in the heart of winter here in the U.S., those soybeans are pollinating as we speak, or they're actually pod setting and pod fill in Argentina. Our first map is courtesy of T-Storm Weather. And we're looking at this chart here and we're showing that the last 7 days, a little bit of drying out of that topsoil moisture for those Argentina soybeans. But when you look at the 14-day topsoil, 30-day subsoil, 60-day deep subsoil, and 90-day ag drought, there really is no major dryness at this point. So it'll be critical to watch for the next, I would say at least till the 1st of April, how these beans develop. Let's move on now and focus on the short-term forecast for Argentina soybeans. Our slides this week, as usual, are courtesy of T-Storm Weather. Now this is important. We've got a 3-day holiday weekend coming up. Monday, February 15th is President's Day, so there'll be no trading on that day. Trading will cease on Friday afternoon and won't start again until Monday night. So a lot can change as you talk about a potential weather market. The first thing we're going to highlight before we get into Argentina is look at all that rainfall across northern Brazil, just briefly here. They're trying to get that harvest started in northern Brazil, but it looks like the next 2 weeks could be stop and go. This will be critical and something we'll highlight a little bit more next week. But getting back to Argentina, look at the dryness here during pod set and pod fill across those 3 provinces. Not a lot of rain in that forecast. Let's move on now and look at our next slide. Looking at the next 10 to 14 days, it looks rather cool though, so we're not going to see a hot and dry period. Moving on now, we're looking at the next 5 to 7 days. There is some rainfall forecast to move through those areas, but fronts moving through a cool area tend to not have quite as much rainfall. Wrapping up here on the forecast, looking at the next 10 to 14 days here, you can see across all those provinces a lot of red there, so a lot of dryness. Again, not critical yet, not looking at yield losses yet, but something to monitor moving forward. Let's move on now and focus on the export pace for U.S. soybeans. We've highlighted this before, but it bears repeating. We're looking at a record level of sales of beans so far this crop year, 2.155 billion bushels. Moving on now, even though the USDA increased its forecast by 20 million bushels this week, we're still looking at 96% of that forecast has already been sold. So we're looking at possibility here moving forward of either some export cancellations or increased soybean imports. That'll be up to the market to decide how that actually occurs. Let's look at the unshipped sales now for U.S. soybeans. Now again, we're not looking at a record level of unshipped sales. We're looking at a lot of vessels in Brazil waiting to be loaded, but that's being delayed by a wet harvest down there. But still, even though our sales are not record high for beans, 86 million bushels more on the books to China from the U.S. this year than a year ago. That'll be critical to see if those actually get shipped before the program from Brazil begins. Let's wrap things up briefly looking at trends in November soybean futures. Now it bears repeating here, we're in the middle of the February crop insurance period here, and we're still looking at the highest price for November soybean futures in 8 years. Strongly encourage you to continue to work closely with your trusted risk management advisor. Now, if you'd like more information, please feel free to contact us, 800-664-2321. We'll put you in contact with one of our risk management consultants who'll be happy to visit with you at your convenience. And remember, we upload every Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an upload. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a good week.